Hi, my name's David. I'm going to try and go over real quick doing long hair with bullet dynamics in Lightwave. I'm using a Lightwave 11.63, but I have a Lightwave 2018 and all these same features work in it just as well. So I'm hoping that I'm guessing that it will work in 2019 and 2020. So you should be able to follow along in whatever Lightwave you have. I think it will probably work all the way back to Lightwave 10 even, when they first started bullet dynamics, I think. Not sure. Let me do a quick overview of my workflow here. I have a quick menu that I use. You can find all these things under the Create tab will be they correspond to the tab that it's named by. Modify tools are all under this Modify tab. Multiply tools are all under Multiply tab. And so on and so forth down to Utilities, which is, got its own tab. I use the Alt key and the left mouse clicker. Let me go ahead and make a primitive. I use Control key to constrain. This is without the Control key. This is with the Control key. I'm going to make a cube real quick. Spacebar drops the tool. Alt allows me to rotate. Alt Shift is move it around in 3D space. Alt Control Alt left click is zoom in and zoom out. These tools are up here. I just want to make sure I was saying them right to you guys real quick, because I do use the zoom and rotate functions without saying the shortcut keys or anything. And then let's go ahead and just get into it. T is the move tool. It would be under Modify. So I use T a lot, and I'll just say it, T key, when I'm grabbing the move tool. Shift K is the knife tool. You can use the Control key to constrain it too. Grab by the end here to get it perfect. I'm unclicking, and then I put the Control key down and I click the end, and it'll make a perfect cut. Spacebar to drop it. Shift K, do it again. Spacebar to drop it. And Shift K, do it again. Spacebar to drop it. No, I could have done this all in the numeric panel. I'm going to use this Control key to constrain as I move these out. I'm just making a really basic shape here. It's almost head-like, but maybe not quite head-like. So maybe Shift K to cut through it. Go ahead and give it a little bit more face-friendly features. Just being really quick here, though. H is the stretch tool. Okay. And space bar allows me to cycle through my modes. The H key is stretch again. I'm just going to hold the control down. I have it on selection. So say if it was on mouse, it would stretch from wherever I mouse click. I like it either usually on selection or origin. Origin would be this, where the middle of this cross is. Pivot is, you can change your pivot. So pivot is depends on where your pivot is in the scene. By default it's at the crosshair, but if you've used the under layers pivot tool to move it, the tool will react from wherever it is. So back to selection. Head's pretty good. Let me go ahead and give it a neck. Hit an E and T to bring it down. E extended out my selection. H to stretch. I'm using Control to constrain it. Go ahead and drag it in here. Make it more round. Bring it back up, hit E again, bring it down. Now we have a neck. That's as good as it needs to be. Maybe do something about this crazy forehead so I don't go crazy. Alright, so now on to the hair. Well, let's save it real quick. Save object as hair tutorial. So you could save it in wherever you're working from. I'm sure you can find a tutorial on how to do work folder arrangement for Lightwave, but it's pretty easy. You just you need to have a folder. It's your work area folder. Inside of that, the name of your project to make it convenient to find, and then you need an objects folder, scenes folder, and when you do bullet, it's going to make a dynamics folder for you, but you definitely want objects in the scenes folder, and maybe images if you're going to have textures. So on to layer 2, preview layer 1 in the background, and under create there's going to be a pen tool. Let me go find it for you. It's right here. And I'm going to hover over this window and hit the 0 key on my number pad, not the 0 on the numbers above the QWERTY keyboard, but the 0 on the number keypad if you have one. Otherwise, this little tab up here in the corner works for maximizing whatever screen you're in, perspective, top. But the shortcut, if you have a numeric key pad off to the right of your keyboard, is the 0. Hover in whatever window and hit 0, and it'll maximize it. So I want to have a few. I still had my pen tool out. It was still selected. This is going to be the root, and I'm just going to make a few polys. Control Alt click to zoom out. Control Alt click and spacebar when you're done, and then go to construct to remove polys, or K. Just hit the K key and it'll kill that poly while it was selected. And you got to deselect all these points, and you got to select them in order. But first things first, let's make this first point, the root, needs to be turned into a a poly. So under create, here, let me show you where it's at. It's right down here under polygons, more, make 1 point poly, and it'll turn that into a polygon. And the way you know that it's a polygon is deselect it, go to your polygon mode. It's selected in polygon mode, and it's right over here under your polygon statistics. It's that single vertex there, single vertex polygon. Now we need to make some double vertex polygons by simply going to point mode, selecting an order, and there is under the create tab the make poly. Oh, right there, make polygon, it's P. It's the shortcut for it. So I'm going to, you want to select them in order from the root going out. Hit P, from the next one going out, in order all the way down. Shift select. I'm going to hit 0 and focus on this window. Selecting and hitting P, that's all I'm doing. And they are being made into polys. Alright, so now you can go back to polygon mode, deselect that poly, but you can see there's 12 of these 2 vertice polygons now, and only one of the 1 vertex polygon, which is right here at the center. And if you hit Shift A, you can kind of focus in on it. Shift A allows you to focus on anything that's selected. I use that a lot too. If you see me select something and it just jumps straight to it, I hit Shift A. It takes me right into that selection, or view of that selection. So now what we got to do, I'm hitting S to save it real quick. We need to make a weight map. So select that first poly. You can drag a lasso around it, but to make sure you're selecting it, because sometimes say you select this and you hit the right bracket so you can select all, right? And you want to copy paste this thing, and you think you've selected it all, so you go copy and you move it and you say paste. And sometimes, for whatever reason, it does not let you get that vertex, that original vertex. There's still only one in the scene, you see? It didn't copy paste it because you need to select it first, Control A or Shift A. So selecting it by clicking on this here and then hitting Shift right bracket, or just right bracket to select all. Shift right bracket, as you saw, just kind of expands your selection. So Shift right bracket will expand your selection. Shift left bracket reduces your, contracts your selection. So, and then just right bracket selects all. So now I can go and say Control C to copy and move this. Control V. I'm going to do it again. Control V. Now there's those 3 root vertices because I selected it first. And you can drag a lasso around it and it works usually, but this way I find, keeps you from messing up if you make sure to go click on it that way. See, if I drag a lasso around it and select it, it allows me to move it and copy it and paste it. So it does work going that way too. So I guess it's really more up to your workflow and how you want to do it. So I'm going to make sure that that root is under the scalp. And I want to go to the magnet tool. Right, I'm using the right clicker to kind of make the form of the magnet tool I want. Oop. Right clicker. There we go. I just want to make it a little wavy. I'm going to go to the next hair. Drag a lasso around that root. Right bracket. Go back to my magnet tool, reactivate it. Kind of move the hair a little. Again. I'm trying not to move that root though. I like that root where it's at. Gonna polygon mode, make sure you're in polygon mode, right lasso, click that, right bracket, select all, go back to the magnet tool, activate it. If you don't like that, what your magnet tool's shape was, you can, you don't have to activate it, you can redraw it out with the right click functionality. And make sure that the hairs stay outside of your mesh's skull or mesh's head there. Alright, so spacebar deselect. Deselect. Alright, so now I got these hairs. I'm going to go name them. Double clicking on the layer. I'm going to call it hair. And you can parent it right here to the first layer, but I'll show you how to do that in layout. This is the double click. Let's call this the head. And I'm going to hit S for save. Alright, so we need a weight map on this hair. I'm going to go hit the plus sign next to the one vertex, selected those three polys. I'm going to hit Shift A. You can see I'm on them. Go down here to weight map. Go new weight map. I'm going to call it hair weight. Make sure this one's at 100% because you need your root at 100%. And you need weight maps on all of the polys. Right now you only got those three one vertex polys with a weight map on them. So I'm going to go select, invert selection, and I'm going to put it at 0 and hit create. Now you cannot see using the weight shade. Even with the hair weight selected, you don't see any weight shading here, which is a real bummer. There should be some way that they kind of integrate that green weight shade that they do on stuff into it. But if you go over here, you can see now there's 36 vertices under, oh wait, no. Oh no, there's no actual, yeah. Sorry, there is no way to see that the weight maps have been placed on those. You just kind of have to remember in your head that you have zero weight factor on those polys. just to make sure that it's 0. While I got them selected, I'll go ahead and change it back to 0 here and hit create. That will 0 them out for sure. And then I'm going to hit S, and I'm going to open up layout. And I don't like sending stuff over to layout. I do it the old-fashioned way, because I get too many crashes too often using these buttons up here in the top right. So I'm just going to load this object in here. I am going to rotate my light. Y is rotate. I'm going to rotate it so it's shining on this side, because I got my hairs hanging off this side of the head over here, so I want to see them good. I don't use my auto key, so I'm going to hit enter and hit enter again to create my first keyframe so the light stays where it's at. Go back to my objects. I want to go to my head, and I'm just going to have it move a little bit. I'm going to pull it back a smidgen. I'm going to hit enter twice, and at keyframe 60 I'm going to have it just move a little bit, a foot or two ahead. Actually, I forgot to use my measurement tool and see how far it is, but down here you can see it's 2 feet, so my head must be kind of big. Might be a kind of a sizable head. I'm going to hit OK so that it moves in 60 frames. Alright, so I'm going to go to my graph editor, and you can see I moved it on the blue channel. The blue channel is the Z-axis. I prefer to go off trying to remember the axes of the different programs, because they change. I tend to color coordinate. So graph editor, blue channel. I'm going to right click, drag a lasso around this keyframe, change it to TCB spline, give it a tension of 1, and that'll cause easing on that keyframe. And I'm going to ease this one too. So it slowly takes off. Instead of a sharp, whiplash takeoff, a straight line to a whiplash sudden stop, it eases out and then eases off from start to full speed to easing back to stop again. So it's much less whiplashy. It's just more smooth transmission. So our hair, you could have parented it in modeler, but I'm going to go ahead and I should have parented it before I made this keyframe off, actually. So let's go back here. Let's make a keyframe at 30 that is 0. Hit enter. So the keyframe remains while you go to M for motion options and parent it to that head real quick. Oh, I gotta select the hair. I want this I want the hair selected so I can parent it to the head. Alright, so now it's parented where it's supposed to be. It's not over here, because it'll, if you parent it and it's back here and the hair was up here, it would remember and it would have been floating out in front of the head. It would have parented in that in place at that position, because this parent in place is on. So I'm going ahead and go back to head and delete this keyframe. Go back to hair, delete that keyframe. So now it's following it. Alright, so let's go ahead and save this. hair tutorial. And now we need to go to FX tools, to FiberFX, to the hair layer, hit activate. Now, I don't know if people know this, you can shift A in here, but you got your alt click is rotate, your control alt click is your zoom, your alt shift is move it around, like a total move, and your alt right click allows you to rotate like on a 360-degree dial, kind of in 2D space, which I don't think any of the other applications have that function, that able to alt right click rotate on a 360 dial. That's pretty cool. Hair's on. I'm going to give it 150 fibers. I want to change the fiber width to, oh wait, let's go ahead and turn it on real quick, the eyeball. Let's turn the gravity off, because Bullet Effects doesn't like gravity. The FiberFX gravity. If you're going to use Bullet, you don't want to use these. I'm going to knock this fiber width down to 10, because I like thin hair. It looks much more realistic, much more believable. It takes, the render time's a little longer, but it's not too bad. Except for in the new Lightwave 2018, it's terrible. Rendering FiberFX is slow. That's why I do. Well, I'm just going to get off topic here for a second, but if you're rendering with your enable radiosity on, you can't have more than 40 fibers in Lightwave 11.63. So what I do is I'll render my scene in 2018 with radiosity, and it looks great, and then I come back to Lightwave 11.63 to render my character's hair, and then I'll superimpose them on each other. Because global luminosity, like I said, doesn't work, or I can't get it to work with more than 40 fibers inside of this version of Lightwave. Unfortunately, because this render engine seems very fast to me, and it works great with the radiosity on. I like it. It's less grainy. If I wanted to add grain into my renders, I'd do it in a nonlinear editor. I don't want it in my renders, and it seems like 2018's render engine is pretty grainy. It still looks nice, don't get me wrong, but it's slow and grainy in comparison. Okay, back on topic. I'm going to change my styling. I want a fiber kink of 1. Oops, I said 1. I want a stray of 10, a swirl of 5. I want some swirl turns of only 50. I want my random length at 80. I want my shadow at 30. These are just my settings. I like them a lot. The shadow part that makes it look so much smoother, the shadow casting on the character. And then I turn my shadow samples. This is the real key right here, turning this up to 20. It'll make the shadow on this character look a lot more believable. Okay, so there we go. Got some decent hair on there. I'm going to hit S to save. Shift A. So I'm going to just real quick do a quick render and show you. Backdrop options. I'm going to change this to gray so you can see it a little better against the background. Dark gray. I'm going to take my camera. The 6 key is camera. You can see it's I have up here in perspective view kind of where I want it. So I have camera selected, and I'm going to just match the perspective of the selected camera and then hit enter twice. So now the camera, I'll go back to camera view. Camera is basically seeing what I was seeing in my perspective view. See, now I'm camera view. So 4 is perspective, 6 is camera view. Back to 4. Turn the camera off, go back to object mode. So I'm checking camera view again. I just want to see that it's all in here good. Okay, so now I'm going to hit F9. Do a quick render. And that hair is very light. Now I only have 3 strands, so I'm guessing that's why it's so fine. You see the shadows look pretty good, but it's so fine you can't see it. So I'm going to go back to FiberFX, and I'm going to change this to, it was really light, maybe 100, so you can see it better. F9. Yeah, now you can see it better. So, I mean, that's pretty good for what we need right now, just so you can see it moving and stuff. So that, you know, when you have 200 hair strands or whatever, when you've made your hair design and you have this fiber width at 10, it will look that much more believable, in my opinion. Maybe you want this kind of more cartoony look, but it depends on, you know, it's all about you, what you're going for. So this is definitely a way to get a much finer hair. Takes the thickness out of it. And also, when you have bullet dynamics and you have a bunch of hairs, turn this fiber quantity back down to 1 before allowing your bullet dynamics to calculate. Because, I mean, with my 3 hairs, it's going to be lickety split. But if you got 200 on there, and you accidentally hit like 120, you hit this and it starts calculating the bullet dynamics, and you have 150 hairs in your quantity. It can take a few minutes that and you get stuck waiting. And I can't remember, I think you can escape out of it or whatnot, but it still takes it a while. It gets stuck in calculating mode for a while. So just, when you got heavy calculations, remember to turn this down and then turn it back up when it comes time to do your render. Or after it's done calculating, if you're not going to make any more changes to your dynamics, you can crank it back up. So I'll go back to 0 here. I'm going to change to my head. I'm going to turn on kinematic body. Go ahead and close this. Open up the item properties for bullet. You can see I brought this in here, and it is a kinematic mesh. That bullet is basically saying with kinematic that it's something that's going to be moving, and it's a colliding with that right now. So now I'm going to go to hair, and I'm going to change this to a deforming body, and mesh filter on that hair weight that we made, and it changes collision margin to 0.01 of an inch. I want it pretty close. I don't want it reacting with my model up there. I'm going to change this surface to vertices and this to given mass. I'm going to crank this down because hair is pretty darn light to 0.7374. Sounds good. And I want to give it a shape retention. And there are ways to, you would think that these tools, they got the T's there for a reason, but I've tried to do gradients on these different channels, on all of them, to no avail. I haven't seen any results for different types of fall off on the calculations of the targets. So I just, if you can, mess with them if you know how those things work, the gradients, and it worked for you on maybe on one of your versions of Lightwave or something. Maybe it's just this one in 2018, the latest 2018 that I have, or I actually tried them all, so not 2018. But I shift click this to get it to go away, and good luck to you if you can get those to work. So let's go to say 45 on that linear stiffness. Crank that down. The 10 is good. Let's say maybe 25 on the friction. And I think that's pretty good. So right now it should still not do anything, even though we got it all set up and looking good. So I'm going to hit S to save because I'm switching back to modeler. I'm going to select those vertices, and I am going to invert the selection, and I'm going to shift left bracket to back select. I'm going to go about to the ear here, where the ear would be, and I'm going to give it a weight of 100 on those polys. So these are up here are 0, so they have no effect. The weight on this is 100 in this area, will be 100 as soon as I hit create. I just hit create. So now these are 100. You can't see it in the weight shade mode or anything. There's no way to tell. You just have to remember where your weights are. For hair, anyways, this is something I wish they'd fix. Some way to tell what the weights on your hair are. But as far as I can tell, having this at 100, say I had it down here, these were 100, and then these were 90, and then these were 80, and these were 70, and you kind of do a fall off of percentage values on your weight map. As far as I can tell, it does not affect bullet at all. They act like this 50% ones would act like they're still at 100%. So so right now we'll just go with what we have, which is, I think these ones were at 100% and these are all 0. And I'm going to hit S to save, and I'm going to go back into layout, and I'm going to go to frame 60, let it do those calculations, and so it's not working still. Oh, you know what I did? I forgot to call it the right name under the create weight map. Alright, so let me go clear this. Select all this. Go clear that map. Clear map. Deselect. Go to none. See if it disappeared. It disappeared. I'm back on hair weight. sorry guys. Reselect my one vertices. Shift A. I'm going to name it hair. Get back on hair weight. Make sure that's at 100%. Then I'm going to invert my selection. Make sure this is at 0%. I hit create. And then I'm going to shift back bracket, or left bracket, I'm sorry, till about the ear. Then I'm going to crank this up to 100%. Hit create. Then I'm going to hit S to save. I'm going to go back to layout, and now the hair is behaving properly. Yeah? There we go. And as you can see, should be clicking right there in the corner. As you can see, invert my selection. If I change these all back to 0 and I only left bracket out a smidgen, and then go back to 0 here, or back, crank up to 100 on these ones and create and hit save, and then go back, those hairs will flow a lot further up, but then you have problems with it. On many times it'll go through the skull or whatever. You'll see the top of the skull come through the hair or whatever. And this isn't looking too bad, but this isn't really how you tell. How you tell is when you hit the render button, and that's when it'll pop through more on your render. But it still looks okay here. But I'm just saying that a good way, like if you look at a lot of movie animations, professional animations or whatever, you'll see that this hair up here around the top of the head is pretty static. It doesn't, like real hair does flow up there when you're moving around, when you have your hair just letting it go. But in order to get the hair to behave better on top and not bouncing up and down and that kind of stuff like that, it's best to go in the layout, change this all to 0. Oops. Bring that back down. Even you can have it, you know, if it don't look to you, give it an extra poly up or whatever. But I liked it right around there pretty good, so I'm going to put that on 100%. Hit save. Go back in there and let it rock. Yeah. So you have a lot more control over where the flowing and the wind and everything is being affected by using a weight map. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys liked it. It was fun learning, and you know, it's an awesome tool, Lightwave, and you know, not too many tools anymore that you can actually own. It's nice to own it. I know it doesn't do everything that all the other ones do, but it does almost everything you need for pretty much anything you can think of. So it's a great package. It's great software. I still support it. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. Not necessarily for me. The YouTube algorithm uses those likes to determine whether or not it's going to show the video to other people. So if you want other people to see Lightwave tutorials and get into Lightwave and try and build a community, then you got to hit those like buttons on the Lightwave tutorials. Not just me, everybody. All the other tutorial guys. Please support Lightwave. And thank you.